Welcome to A Journey to Whole Woman Health, the podcast where science, mental health, and faith come together to educate, empower, and encourage women in every season of life. We are your hosts, Dr. Jamie Irwin, board-certified OBGYN,
and Dr. Mary Catherine Nader, licensed professional counselor with a PhD in counselor education and supervision. Jamie and I have been friends for over 30 years.
Each week, we explore the intersection of body, mind, and soul, bringing you evidence-based medicine, meaningful conversations about mental health, and stories that remind us we're not alone on the journey.
So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's begin the journey.
Welcome back to A Journey to Whole Woman Health. We are delighted to have a guest speaker back with us in studio for part 2. If you have ever felt anxious, if you have a child who has ever felt anxious, this episode is for you. So we're so glad you've joined us. Mary Catherine, introduce our guest. We're delighted to have her back for part 2.
We're so excited. Kate Jennings is back with us. She's a licensed professional counselor supervisor. Kate is amazing. She has her own practice, Bug and Bee, in Fort Worth, where she specializes in seeing kids and teens, and especially with working with anxiety and chronic illness, which often go together. Mm-hmm. And we ended this last session, our last episode. I'm a therapist. Last session.
It was a session. It was a great session for me.
I felt like we got something out of it.
I learned a lot.
Yes. The last episode we ended by just talking about how anxiety can manifest itself in our body. You were sharing about serotonin in our gut, and then we wanted to share just other ways that we might notice in ourselves or in our kiddos how anxiety might present.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for having me back. So I just feel like it's really empowering to know kind of some of these biological facts of how we see anxiety manifest itself in our bodies. So one that's pretty classic is our stomach, and that serotonin is made in our stomach. And so when our serotonin is high, our worries are low, everything is great in our world. But then, oh no, we have a history test. Oh no, it's a C day and I didn't do my C class homework. That was always mine because I thought it was a B day. And so as our stressors and worries go up, our serotonin drops and our stomach starts trying to crank out extra serotonin. So it starts hurting because it thinks it's okay. I'll fix it. We'll give you some extra serotonin. That will go up. Worries will go down and everything will be good. But now you're sitting in your test. You're thinking about your stomach hurting. You can't concentrate on your test. You're thinking you're going to fail your test. You're going to fail the class. You're going to fail out of school. You're going to live in a cardboard box. And so if we can say, my stomach is hurting because I am feeling anxious about this test. It's like sailing. To stop a sailboat, you turn and face the wind, and the sail luffs is what it's called. It kind of flaps in the wind. And that way the sail cannot fill up with wind and move along the lake. And so you turn and you face the wind and it stops. And if you can face the winds of anxiety, it can stop it. Not stop it, but it can definitely reduce it. So other ones that we will see are headaches. So our blood, when we start to feel, I'll go back to if we hear a big bang outside. We don't know what it is. Our body goes into fight or flight mode or freeze. So blood's going to rush out of our brain and into our vital organs. And it is what you would think it's going to try to think through things, but it doesn't need to think through things. It just needs to know I have to survive.
Which direction do I go? Yes.
And so we might get a headache or we might feel lightheaded. We might start to sweat for 2 different reasons. So if we are sweating, first of all, if you'll put your arm out, if you're sweaty and I try to grab onto you, you can slip out of my grasp a lot more easily than if your skin is dry. And so it's this very ancient caveman day way of survival that I can't grab you and hold on to you if you're sweaty. And then it also is our way of cooling down our body.
Wow.
We might notice that our hands or our feet are cold and tingly, and that's because blood is trying to all go to our vital organs. But also, back in caveman days, if you were to trip over a branch trying to run away and you scrape your leg, that way you don't bleed out while you're trying to run because there's not as much blood in your legs. And so it's gone away from the surface level of your skin. So if you do get injured, then you don't die from the injury while you're trying to get away from the threat.
That vasoconstriction, those blood vessels actually constricting.
That's the fancy name for it. Yeah. And so what else? We'll feel our heartbeat really fast. And that is because our heart is trying to pump blood to our legs so they can either run as fast as they can or fight. Our muscles might kind of tingle because they're getting a boost of oxygenated blood to try to work better and be as strong as they possibly can. And then the other one that's always interesting to me is our pupils can dilate to take in as many variants of colors and threat as we can. So the number one color the human eye can see the most variants of is green, because in caveman days, there weren't different things to differentiate. You know, there wasn't a building here to tell me how far that dinosaur coming at me, well, not caveman, but anyway, there wasn't a building to give me any kind of dimension. And so the more green variants I could see, then I could tell how far away things are. So our pupils dilate too. And if you can then say, oh, I'm feeling lightheaded and my pupils are dilating because I'm feeling anxious, it can be a little bit of a relief versus, oh, I'm anxious and now everything feels so bright. Why does the light feel so bright? I don't know why this is happening. But if you can acknowledge it, then it can help a little bit too.
Yes, that's so good. I love all those metaphors you gave. I love the turning into the anxiety. That is a
Viktor
picture.
Frankl Man's Search for Meaning theory,
that is
but
so
I love it too. I have a
good.
little sailboat in my office.
I love that because that can actually become a powerhouse that can actually help us.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, you know, we think when we're feeling anxious, we're not being brave, but it's the opposite. When we feel anxious and we choose to do something, when we choose to move into it, that's being brave. When we don't feel anxious or we're not worried and we just do something, that's just doing it, you know, but like doing a podcast when we feel anxious and nervous about it, that's being brave. Like being brave is when you're feeling anxious. It's not the opposite.
Doing it anyway.
Doing it anyway. Feel the fear and do it anyway.
And I think it is important that we're teaching our kids and we're teaching ourselves to tap into our bodies. I think as women, we, for too long, maybe we've been taught this, maybe it's been modeled, or maybe we just put that, it's a self-imposed expectation to push through,
Right.
to not listen to our body, ignore
and not recognize what's happening.
Ignore the headache, ignore the constipation.
Because our body is telling us something, like we talked about in this first episode, that our body is trying to communicate to us what it needs and what it's feeling. And often we ignore it, and often we tell our kids to ignore it. Like, you're fine.
You're fine.
You're
Go
fine.
to school.
Everything's fine. And not really being curious, like you shared in the earlier episode. Go listen to it if you haven't already. To really help our kids explore like what's happening and to listen.
I wonder why. Instead of, have you pooped? Or you have to go to school, or you're fine.
You're fine. Get over it.
Yeah.
And we do that to ourselves.
Yeah.
We say the same thing to ourselves. So modeling that.
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I go
Until
to work,
we're not
push
fine,
through.
until our body shuts down, which we have seen.
Yeah. Well, and I think then that trickles down to our overscheduled kids. And when they are so busy 24 hours a day, they don't have time to feel their bodies. They're just kind of going through the motions of all of the things. I go to school, then I go to sports, then I go to my club practice, then I go to musical rehearsal, then I do my homework, then I go to sleep.
Okay.
Full day.
Can
Let's
we
talk about that?
We need to. Let's dig into that. Where's that coming from? Why are we at this point in our society? I feel these pressures as well. I mean, I have kids. Mary Catherine has kids.
Yeah.
You have kids, Kate. And they're bombarded and inundated, and I feel that pressure too. I don't want my kids to miss out. I don't want them to get left behind. I want them to excel. I want that for them. I do. I'm a very competitive person. I've been an athlete and a competitor my whole life. I was a Division I athlete in college, and not that that's going to be the story for my kids, and it's great if it's not. I mean, it really is. But I want them to be their best, and I want to be the best mom for them so that they can meet their potential.
Right.
So how did we get here, and what needs to change?
Well, I think being the best also we have to recognize is not always performing, but sometimes being the best is being the best to ourselves too. And being able to recognize...
Wait, say that again. Being the best is also...
is also recognizing when we need to take a break too.
Yeah,
That's
and being
not
the
quite
best
how
to
I put it.
ourselves. I
Being the
love
best
that.
to ourselves. There we
yes.
go. Because it's
Not
easy.
just for others, performing for others.
Yes,
but
even
being
I mean,
the
I
best
had
for
the
us.
flu over Christmas, and I was like, I'm supposed to be out there and wrapping presents and enjoying the moment, taking the pictures. And then I had to look in the mirror and tell myself, I am not a bad mom on Christmas. I am a mom who is sick on Christmas, and that's okay.
Right.
And so I think that even I think it comes from the kids too. They don't want to miss out on the things.
Sure.
But I think, being able to explore all of the different things is great. Maybe one or two at a time. And then they do learn, oh, hey, ballet wasn't really for June, my daughter, because she wanted to talk the whole time. and so maybe she should play a sport where you're not supposed to be quite so quiet. And so I think that trying things out is one thing, but then, and if they're super passionate about it, I want them to have that passion, but I also want them to recognize, and I have a client that I've seen who it wasn't until her schedule broke that she finally was feeling some grief from an incident that happened a few years ago. And it was manifesting itself in very physical ways. And it was like, but it was 2 years ago.
Right.
That shouldn't be a problem. But it's because there's been high school and sports and basketball and volleyball and all the things. And then when there wasn't, then those things could kind of sink in. And so I think that, an object in motion keeps in motion, but I think also they kind of get in their routine. And then I think they also are comfortable with it too. So if they learn they're good at volleyball, they want to do all the volleyball things, but they're not going to necessarily try basketball because what if they're not good at it? And then that's when the anxiety kicks in. And what if I'm not good at it? And what if I embarrass myself on the court and all of those what ifs? And I always say, do not compare your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 20. Maybe she has been playing volleyball for 10 years and this is your first game. So it's okay to try new things, but also maybe just try taking a breath.
Yeah.
So what do you tell those families that like that they're doing too much?
Usually I'm not going to be the one that can tell them, but if I can help the child come to that conclusion on their own and kind of say, I'm really thinking that school and club volleyball was too much. And a lot of times it's lessons learned from doing it.
Right.
At the end of the season, being able to say, that was just a lot and I'm not really sure. Then the kid starts worrying about disappointing mom. That's another reason they stay committed to so many things. I don't want to disappoint mom. I get that one all the time. Dad's the baseball coach. I don't want to quit this.
Sure.
I don't want them to be mad at me. I don't want them, older kids worry about the money piece. And so they stick with it for these reasons. But if I can help empower them to tell their parent, hey, or with the baseball situation, one of my kids was able to go to dad and say it was too stressful for dad to be his coach and he wanted to continue playing but not on his dad's team. And so he was able to say that, which was amazing. But it took a few sessions for him to feel the confidence to be able to say that. So I'm not going to be the one to say stop overscheduling your kids, but I think if it can come from the kid, or I can show the parent and say these things are going on. What do you see that connection there? And then sometimes the parents come to that understanding on their own too, which is going to be a lot more powerful than me just kind of telling them what to do.
Yeah. It's a journey for them, and you're their guidepost,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, and a therapist's job is not to give advice. It
Right.
is to help them come to those decisions and those conclusions on their own and empower them to make those choices.
Wow. Well, I know something that gives a lot of parents anxiety is how do we have hard conversations with our kids? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so I will get a lot of asks, whether it's from friends or clients. Sometimes I call them clients. We've talked about this, clients versus patients. But I will get questions of, hey, just wanted to let you know grandma was diagnosed with cancer. Or, hey, we're going to have to put our dog down. Usually parents will ask for my help in having conversations about death and dying, heavy diagnoses, divorce, or moves, and those are my main ones. But I've gotten everything across the board. How do I talk to my kids about big sister's a girl and he's a boy, and why do our parts look different? And so I get kind of anything and everything. And I always just tell parents that their job is to, one, establish a really safe relationship with the kid. First, I say, it's great that you're even coming to me to ask about this, because a lot of parents just kind of treat the kid like a little adult, of not assuming they're going to have these big feelings, or the things the kids have big feelings about, the parents feel like are no big deal. The kid's first concern about divorce might be where the dog's going to live. And the parents are kind of like, I don't know, we'll figure that out. But that might be the biggest concern for them. And so I always kind of thank the parent for that, and then say, your job is really to just walk alongside them with this and to be a resource and to have the relationship. So when I even get tough questions from my daughter, I'll say, thank you so much for coming to me with this. I'm so glad you feel like you can talk to me about this. I heard a quote once that said, instead of my daughter being growing up thinking, we can't tell my mom, I don't know what she'll do, thinking we have to tell my mom, she'll know what to do. And I love that. And I am about to start charging my daughter's parents for group therapy, because the number of conversations that we navigate through are tough. But I think that being very as honest about it, no matter what the subject is, while also kind of changing your conversation a little bit depending on their age, is important too, and knowing how much to share and when to share. And I also use a ton of books. So on my Amazon page, I have them sorted into I don't know if you ever, when you were more with children, used books, but I just feel like for them, it's so helpful. Relatable. Like, oh my gosh, that kid's going through that too. And being able to say, I wonder if you were feeling that way. Mm-hmm. So even the teens and older kids, I always kind of joke, I'm like, put your listening ears on. We're going to go back to library class. Because it is nice for them sometimes to realize, like, okay, there are other people going through what I'm going through. Mm-hmm. And then depending on the topic, then going from there.
Mm-hmm. So I'm hearing the relationship is so foundational, connecting with our children. And once that connection's there, then we can better understand them. Yeah. What are they feeling? What are they most worried about? Mm-hmm. Talk us through perhaps one of those conversations.
So I would say maybe divorce. I feel like I'm at the age, at least, where a handful of my friends are all starting to go through family changes too. And I always tell parents, be prepared for this conversation to go every which way. And I wouldn't even have the conversation unless you're prepared to answer a lot of questions. So there was one family, I told them they should be the model couple they came in with like their calendar laid out and highlighted and when everybody was going to go where, and just so prepared for sharing with their kiddos how it was going to happen and who was going to live where. Because until they're going to ask you, where am I going to live? Where the dog's going to live? Am I still going to be able to go to my school? Am I still going to be friends with this friend? Why did this happen?
Yeah.
What happened?
I would think that'd be a really tough one.
How
much do you share?
So I always, if there's something the kids have seen, I like to start with being concrete. So, you've heard mom and dad fighting a lot lately, and we try not to do it around you, but I know you've heard us arguing a lot. And so we decided that to be the best parents that we can be to you, that means that we can't live together, because when we live together and we're busy fighting, we're not as busy taking care of you. And so we've decided not to live together anymore. And hopefully if we don't live together, we can be the best parent that we can be to you. If there's not something that is concrete or tangible, it makes it a little bit tougher. But I think, again, going back to not your fault, I think these sometimes it can really, it just so depends on the situation. Not letting your own bitterness about it be portrayed, and really having that conversation as a family. Not letting, a lot of times, for whatever reason, the kids kind of sometimes become like the therapist for the mom, I think, because kids are so intuitive. Mom, why are you crying? Mom, what's wrong? And being able to say, I feel really sad that these big changes are happening. That's okay. You don't have to say, I feel really sad that Dad is leaving because he met a younger woman, or whatever the case is. Yeah. So I think being able to identify your own feelings in the moment to model for them is really important. And again, being able to answer as many questions up front because their brains are going to go everywhere.
Sure. What do you usually advise on as far as having the actual conversation? I always think this is interesting because people are like, should we do it at home? Should we do it, like who should be there? I mean, do you have opinions
I think it depends on your kid for sure. I know not divorced, but I know when we sat our kids down to tell them that when about moving, and then but way younger when we had to put our dog down, I said, hey, can we sit down? I have something really important to talk to you about. And then, they're like sitting on the couch waiting to hear, but if a younger kid, I would probably say home or over ice cream. And it's not because you want to make it fluffy. It's just because you want to have a conversation versus we need to have a family meeting and sit down and just trying to, maybe you could be, depending on age, coloring side by side so they don't have to look at you. A lot of really good conversations, maybe not quite as serious, but good conversations happen in the car.
Yes.
When they don't have to make eye contact with you. My mom always said that was her hardest part for me driving, was that we didn't get to have those conversations anymore. But then I do kind of say, I want to talk to you about something really serious. And with death and dying, I straight up said, Abby is going to die tomorrow. And
this is your dog?
That was my dog.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying. And why? Well, her body isn't working the way it's supposed to anymore. So June was 3 when we had that conversation. With an older kid, I might say her heart isn't working as well as it needs to keep her healthy. And then she said, well, how do you know that she's going to die tomorrow? And I said, well, because she's been, and in this case, she's been so sick, she's been having accidents. So pointing out what they can see. Now she's been having accidents. You know how grandma has been really tired lately. You know how, again, we've been fighting a lot lately. You know how the sink in the bathroom stopped working and then the toilet stopped working, things that they can see and remember.
Yeah.
And then being able to take that and say, this is kind of why, or this is kind of what's going on.
This is the evidence. And they can say, yeah, okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about. You're right. Okay.
So with death and dying, we do use the words dying,
yes,
versus passed away, versus all the euphemisms.
Yes.
When
it's very confusing for kids. We lost her. Well, go find her.
Right.
What if I get lost?
Right.
Am I gone forever?
He went to heaven. Well, when can I go?
Right.
Let's
go visit.
My niece asked if she could go. She's like, so if we go on the trampoline, can we bounce high enough to go see him?
Yes.
Listen.
And so, or it was a bounce house. But
we're taught that in medical school as well, even adults. I mean, of course, yes, children, they don't understand. But that can even happen in adults. It is very important you say death, dead, dying, and not they're in a better place or they've gone on or, no, you gotta say the word.
Well, and just side a little bit tangent, but when I'm talking to older teens and adults, when we're talking about death, also death by suicide, we do not say committed suicide. It is not a crime. Studies show that saying committed, the suicide survivors, which are actually not people who've attempted and survived an attempt. Suicide survivors are the loved ones and friends left after a suicide. Okay. Studies show that they are not as willing to seek support when there's this negative stigma of committed in our brains just goes to crime.
Right.
Yeah.
And then way back in Roman times, a suicide, if somebody died by suicide, their estate was given over to the king. And the same thing happened when somebody was imprisoned. Their estate was given over to the king. And so people kind of just joined the two together, like, oh, these are crimes, and their estate's given over to the king.
Wow.
And so instead we say died by suicide. You can say killed themselves. Hanged is the past tense of hung, but of course being very mindful of what age groups you have different conversations with.
Sure.
Yeah.
I would imagine that's a really tough one to have conversation with kiddos.
It is. And sometimes, again, depending on age, but I might say, if I were to say, well, they killed themselves or they died by suicide, if a kid knows what suicide means. And they say, oh my gosh, why? And then I almost always just go back to saying, sometimes people feel so hopeless and so helpless, like things are never going to get better. And this is the only solution that they think will help the problem. But it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And that was the only thing he thought was going to make things better, is if he did that. But it didn't make things better. I know. I know. You're right. It didn't. And not arguing with that, not trying to justify it, but just saying, I know, you're right. It didn't. It made it very sad for all of us.
Yeah. Now, I sometimes will say something like their brain wasn't working right. Just like our heart stops working well, our brain's not working right. It's not making sense anymore. It's not able to work and think clearly. Which it's so hard for any of us to understand, no matter what age. It's so difficult. Yeah.
What else do you think parents could do a better job of when it comes to anxiety and mental health in our kiddos?
Turn off the news.
Okay.
And even, kids are smart. Even just scrolling on your phone, if they see it over your shoulder, just knowing that they're always kind of watching. When they do hear about global events, whether it's war, I very, very basically, and I always go back, my kids are 8 and 5, so I kind of tend to go back to that when I'm, of course, parent to parent and family to family, I would change things up. But in my examples, those are the age, just so our listeners know what I'm kind of thinking through. But I almost always say something super simple, like, well, that the person in charge of that country thought that things should go a certain way, and the person in charge of this country thought they could do it better, or the person in charge of this country thought that they were going to try to hurt us, and so they said, you know what, I'll hurt them first so they can't hurt us. Of course, it's so much more complicated than that, but I think if you need just a sentence, that can be helpful too. And then I always, it's a Mr. Rogers quote, but to look for the helpers. And so, and how do we stay safe? So, we stay safe. We have an Army and a Navy and a Marine Corps that all protect our country. There are country safekeepers. We stay safe by, you do things at school like your fire drills or your whatever, they use different names at all the schools for the active shooter drills, but you stay safe by practicing tornado drills. And how else do we stay safe? How can you stay safe in the car?
A seatbelt, yeah.
Wearing a seatbelt. And so I think that kind of acknowledging it, but then also going back to the helping side of it. Or it is really sad. What do you think we could do to bring a smile to their face? Or is there anything you think we could do together to help make things a little bit easier for them, whether it's a lemonade stand or donation drive or gathering up their old stuffed animals, anything like that.
That's good.
Getting our kids outside of themselves and looking for ways to serve and help others. One last thing I want you to touch on, Kate, if you would. Mary Catherine and I both have teenagers. Mary Catherine will soon be an empty nest. Well, not an empty nester. Sorry. Well, your first one is leaving the nest.
Yes.
You will still have your little one who's not little at all. But a big change.
It's a big change.
And so teenagers, I have one teenager and a little preteen. I've seen some talk online, some chatter about how our teenagers are somewhat risk averse and not wanting to get out of their comfort zones, not wanting to take on new challenges, afraid of failing, therefore not even trying new things. Are you seeing this in your practice? Yeah. Tell us about it, and how, as parents of teenagers, how do we parent them out of this?
Well, I think, again, empathizing with them of maybe they don't want to try out for basketball because they've never played basketball before, so we'll use that one. Gosh, it's really hard to try something new. Or I imagine it's feeling really scary for you. Do you want to talk to me more about that? And really connecting with them and being in that moment with them and being a sounding board for them. And then being able to say, you can do hard things. What would maybe make it a little bit easier for you? Or referencing back, I'm very strengths focused. And so, okay, and actually this one was my own daughter. So she was really worried about going, I can't remember even where, somewhere. And her own therapist said, what's a time that you tried something that you were really nervous about and really worried about? She's like, driving the golf cart at our beach trip. And so I ended up getting her a little golf cart charm necklace that she wore, and remembering the success of, I was nervous, but I did it anyway. So reflecting back on, when have you been nervous? Again, going back to courage, when have you been nervous about something, but you did it anyway? And it could be when they were 4, or it could be starting school. It could be taking a test, but then they're like, oh yeah, I did do that. Okay. I do have the ability to do it. I just have to remember. And then being able to say, and you might not make the team, and that's okay too.
Yeah, good.
But I have to make this. Yeah, I really want you to too. And if you don't, and if you want to try out again next year, maybe we could talk about some ways that we could work on skills between now and then. But I think, again, taking the wind out of the sails, being able to say, you might fail.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. And you might fly, and that's wonderful too.
Yeah, I love that. That's really
That's
good.
beautiful. Okay, we've got 2 powerhouse therapists right here. I'm so blessed by both of y'all. Kate, your kids are blessed by you.
Oh, thank you.
Your clients are blessed by you. Let's wrap up. I'm springing this on y'all. I did not.
You're gonna make me cry.
I did not prepare either of you. But what are your favorite mom mantras? Do you have any that you find yourself repeating to the kids, whether it's like, let's get out the door, or after a hard day, or that you encourage your kids with, or just something that as a mom you come back to?
I mean, we've talked about it before, but the progress, not perfection, like that's a big one for me, for myself and for them, like just as a journey as a mom, and just in trying new things. Like, hey, the goal isn't to make the team. The goal isn't to, but it's just to do it, just to do it, just to make some progress.
Yeah. I always say you can do hard things. I think for littles, some of mine are you asking me or telling me? Can you ask again with kindness? Instead of tell them you're sorry, I will say, can you go check on them? You don't have to accept an apology if you're not ready to accept it.
Yes.
Except Wyatt will go, don't accept. Don't accept it. And his friends are thrown because they're so used to everybody just saying it's okay.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they cry because Wyatt's not accepting their.
But he's not ready yet.
He's not.
Good for him.
And so any of those that really empower them to make that change too.
Yeah.
Of having a do-over, trying again. So
Yeah, those are good. Those are really good. Jamie Lynn, you have one?
We're doing the best we can.
Yes.
I say it a lot. Usually when we're running late.
Yeah.
Mom, we're running late. We should have. We're doing the best we can. And that's just where we're at.
That's where we're at.
We know you are doing the best that you can, and it's been a joy to have you with us. Please share this with a friend, with a mom, with someone that you know needs to hear it. It's been great having Kate Jennings in studio today, and we look forward to you joining us next time on a journey to whole woman health.
Thank you for joining us on a journey to whole woman health. If this episode encouraged you, share it with a friend, leave a review, or subscribe so you don't miss future conversations. Remember, your questions matter, your health matters, and wholeness is a journey. Until next time.
Now for the legal language. The information shared in this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical or mental health advice. Listening to this podcast does not establish a doctor-patient or therapist-client relationship. Always consult your own qualified healthcare provider regarding any medical concerns.